Have you ever stepped outside on a clear, crisp evening, leaving behind the noise and bright artificial lights of your home, to stand beneath the vast, open canopy of the night sky? Have you ever tilted your head back, letting your eyes adjust to the ancient darkness, and felt a profound, almost overwhelming sense of stillness wash over you in that quiet moment when the world around you fades into shadows and the only thing that remains is the cold, brilliant light of distant stars? Have you ever wondered who or what might be looking back? We have all stood beneath that endless expanse, wrapped in the gentle silence of the cosmos, and asked the same fundamental question that has haunted humanity since the very first moments of our conscious awakening. We look at the perfect order of the celestial dance, the reliable rising and setting of the sun, the predictable phases of the moon, the turning of the galactic wheel, and we naturally seek a creator. We look for an architect. We look for God. But what if the truth about the ultimate nature of reality, the hidden truth about the divine, is entirely different from everything we have ever been taught? What if the greatest cosmic mystery is not a distant figure sitting outside the universe, but rather the very fabric of the universe itself? This is not a journey to dismantle faith, but rather a quiet, contemplative exploration to elevate our understanding of the miraculous. It is an invitation to step away from the comforting, human-sized stories we have told ourselves for thousands of years, and to embrace a mystery so deep, so elegant, and so infinitely vast that it will leave you in a state of pure, respectful awe. For the vast majority of our history, human beings have projected our own image onto the heavens. We are creatures of narrative, bound by our biology, our emotions, and our social structures. And so, when our ancestors looked out at a terrifying and unpredictable world, they populated it with beings who looked and acted just like them, only larger and more powerful. We found gods in the crackling violence of lightning storms, in the rhythmic, crushing power of the ocean waves, in the shifting of the tectonic plates that shake the ground beneath our feet, and in the vital, life-giving warmth of the spring sun. We imagined a pantheon of deities who experienced anger, jealousy, love, and regret. We built enormous temples of stone, offered sacrifices, and whispered our deepest fears into the dark, hoping that the master of the universe would hear our specific, individual pleas. We made the infinite small enough to fit inside our minds. We made the cosmos human. But as our ancestors slowly developed the tools of science, as we began to grind glass into lenses and point the very first primitive telescopes toward the wandering stars, the universe began to whisper a different story. It was a story not of human drama, but of staggering, incomprehensible scale and elegant, mathematical precision. The cosmos, we discovered, was not a small, cozy theater built exclusively for our performance. It was an ancient, sprawling arena, so vast that our human brains literally lacked the evolutionary architecture to fully comprehend its dimensions. When the astronomer Galileo Galilei first pointed his simple tube of glass and wood at the night sky over 400 years ago, he shattered the crystalline spheres of ancient philosophy. He saw mountains and craters on the surface of the moon, proving that the heavens were not made of perfect ethereal matter, but of rock and dust, just like the earth. He saw tiny moons orbiting the giant planet Jupiter, proving that our world was not the center of all motion. It was a profound, deeply humbling realization, and yet it was only the very first step in a long, quiet journey of perspective. Centuries later, the astronomer Edwin Hubble peered through his telescope at faint, fuzzy smudges of light. He discovered that those smudges were entirely separate island universes, entire galaxies containing billions of stars situated millions of light years away. And today, as the James Webb Space Telescope deploys its golden mirrors in the freezing vacuum of space, stationed 1,500,000 kilometers from Earth, it captures the ancient light of galaxies that existed over 13 billion years ago. We now know that our observable universe contains roughly 2 trillion galaxies. Each of those galaxies contains hundreds of billions of stars. The sheer number of stars in the observable universe is far greater than the number of grains of sand on every single beach on our planet. And around those stars orbit countless trillions of planets, spinning silently in the dark. Faced with this crushing immensity, the traditional human-centric vision of a creator begins to feel desperately inadequate. How could a being concerned with the daily minutiae of our personal lives also be the architect of a cosmos that spans at least 93 billion light-years across? It is a paradox that has troubled some of the greatest minds in human history. The physicist Albert Einstein, a man who completely reshaped our understanding of space and time, was intimately familiar with this tension. When asked if he believed in God, Einstein famously replied that he believed in the God of the philosopher Baruch Spinoza. Spinoza did not see God as a judgmental monarch watching from a throne in the sky. Instead, Spinoza believed that God and nature, God and the universe, were exactly the same thing. To Spinoza, and later to Einstein, the divine was not a personality, but the sublime, unbreakable, and perfectly harmonious laws of physics that govern every single particle in existence. Einstein saw the divine in the profound mystery of comprehensibility. The most incomprehensible thing about the universe, he once wrote, is that it is comprehensible. Why should the human mind be able to understand the equations that dictate the expansion of the cosmos? Why should the universe follow rules at all? This brings us to the very heart of the hidden truth. If we strip away our anthropomorphic desires, if we stop looking for a face in the clouds and instead look at the fundamental architecture of reality, we find something far more breathtaking. We find the laws of physics. These invisible, omnipresent forces are the true rulers of the cosmos. Think about gravity. Gravity is the gentle, invisible hand that shapes the entire universe. It is the force that pulls the primordial clouds of hydrogen gas together, compressing them tighter and tighter until the immense pressure ignites the fires of nuclear fusion, giving birth to a star. Gravity holds the planets in their graceful, elliptical orbits around their suns. Gravity binds hundreds of billions of stars into the majestic, swirling pinwheels of galaxies. Gravity even reaches across the empty voids of intergalactic space, pulling clusters of galaxies into a vast cosmic web of glowing filaments and dark spaces. Gravity is always pulling, operating with absolute, flawless mathematical precision everywhere, all the time, without exception. It does not pause. It does not sleep. It does not judge. It simply acts, a continuous, eternal manifestation of cosmic order. When we look at the universe through the lens of these physical laws, the concept of God transforms into something infinitely more grand and abstract. We are no longer talking about a being with a mind or an ego. We are talking about the sheer, undeniable reality of an ordered existence. This is the God of physics, the ultimate source of all pattern and structure. It is a presence that does not demand our worship, but naturally commands our deepest, most profound sense of awe. As you lie there, contemplating these monumental concepts, feel the weight of your own existence within this grand cosmic tapestry. You are not separate from this hidden truth. You are an intimate, integral part of it. The very atoms that compose your body were forged in the fiery hearts of ancient stars that lived and died billions of years before our solar system even began to form. You are literally made of stardust. You are a collection of particles governed by the exact same physical laws that dictate the collision of galaxies and the birth of black holes. But here is the most beautiful, most humbling revelation of all. You are the part of the universe that is somehow woken up. You are the universe experiencing itself. When you look up at the night sky and feel that quiet, gentle sense of awe, that is the universe recognizing its own infinite majesty. In the chapters to come, we will continue this quiet journey to the very dawn of time and the edge of the observable universe. But for now, just rest in the knowledge that you are held securely by the gentle forces of the cosmos. Allow the profound silence of the universe to quiet your mind, knowing that the ultimate truth is a mystery to be embraced with an open, wondering heart. Have you ever looked at the space between your hands and thought of it as completely empty? We live our daily lives walking through what we perceive to be a vast void, a transparent nothingness that seemingly separates us from the swaying trees, from the crashing oceans, from the distant burning stars, and ultimately from each other. Our human senses, beautifully evolved over millions of years to help us survive and navigate on the surface of a small, rocky planet, tell us a compelling story of isolation. They tell us that we are discrete, independent objects moving through an empty, lifeless stage. But when we look closer, when we peer through the miraculous instruments of modern science into the very fabric of reality, this illusion of separation completely shatters. The universe is not a chaotic collection of isolated objects floating in a dead void. It is, instead, a vibrant, shimmering web of continuous fields. If we want to truly understand the hidden truth about the divine, if we want to gently move beyond the ancient myths of a solitary creator standing outside of creation, we must journey into the quiet, invisible architecture of the quantum realm. Here, in the infinitesimally small spaces that make up the atoms of your living body and the ancient dust of the cosmos, the traditional concepts of solid matter dissolve into pure, trembling energy. Imagine shrinking down, smaller than a tiny grain of sand, smaller than a single biological cell, smaller even than the dense nucleus of an atom. What do you find in that microscopic darkness? You do not find hard, solid spheres of matter. You find fields of probability, vast oceans of potential that stretch across the entire infinite universe without breaking. Every particle in your body is simply a localized vibration, a tiny temporary ripple in an endless, invisible sea of energy. This is not just poetic philosophy. This is the rigorous, proven reality of quantum mechanics. And it brings us to one of the most profound mysteries ever discovered by human minds. It is a bizarre and beautiful phenomenon that Albert Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance, though today modern physicists know it as quantum entanglement. When two particles interact under certain extreme conditions, they become intimately and permanently linked, sharing a single, unified quantum state. If you separate these entangled particles, sending one to the freezing edge of our solar system, and keeping the other right here on Earth, they remain deeply, inextricably connected. If you change the state of one particle, the state of the other will change instantaneously, communicating faster than the speed of light, which itself travels at an astonishing 186,000 miles per second. How is this physically possible? How can two microscopic objects, separated by millions of miles of cold, dark space, communicate instantly? The answer that modern physics suggests is both staggering and deeply beautiful. They do not need to communicate across the vast space because, at a fundamental level, they are not truly separate entities. The physical space between them is an illusion created by our limited human perception. Deep down, beneath the surface of reality, everything is seamlessly connected. When we search for a concept of God that truly honors the majestic scale of the cosmos, we might find it right here, in this profound, unbreakable unity. The divine is not a distant, judgmental observer. It is the invisible, trembling web that binds the entire universe together into a single, breathtaking whole. To truly grasp the magnitude of this cosmic connection, we must trace it back to its absolute origin. We must take a quiet journey backward through the abyss of deep time, traversing the eons until we reach the very beginning of the universe itself. Imagine rewinding the cosmic clock, watching the distant galaxies pull closer and closer together, watching the expanding cosmos contract. We travel back past the fiery formation of the Earth, roughly 4,500,000,000 years ago. We travel back past the ignition of the very first massive stars that illuminated the dark. We travel all the way back to a singular moment, approximately 13,800,000,000 years ago. This is the moment of the Big Bang. But the Big Bang was not a chaotic explosion taking place in space, as it is so often incorrectly imagined. It was the sudden, magnificent explosion of space itself. In that primordial fraction of a second, the entire observable universe, every single atom, every particle of light, every ounce of energy that would eventually form the 2 trillion galaxies we can see today, was compressed into a space smaller than the head of a pin. In that extraordinary state of infinite density and unimaginable heat, there was absolutely no separation. You, the Earth, the distant blazing quasars, and the cold void of intergalactic space were all one and the exact same thing. Everything was unified in a singular blazing point of pure, concentrated potential. We know this story is not merely a theoretical mathematical fantasy because we can still see the gentle glow of this ancient creation event today. In the early 2000s, the European Space Agency launched a marvel of human engineering called the Planck satellite. Its ambitious mission was to look out into the deepest, coldest depths of space and listen to the faint, ancient echoes of the Big Bang. The Planck satellite spent years meticulously mapping the cosmic microwave background radiation, which is the literal afterglow of the universe's birth. When physicists and astronomers look at the incredibly detailed maps produced by the Planck mission, they are literally looking at the oldest light in the cosmos. They are seeing the universe exactly as it was a mere 380,000 years after it began, long before the first stars had even begun to form. The universe at that ancient time was a vast glowing sea of plasma, unimaginably hot and completely opaque, like a thick, glowing fog. But as the universe expanded, it naturally cooled. And in that cooling, something miraculous happened. The chaotic, searing energy began to calm. The temperature dropped just enough for the first electrons to gently bind with the first protons, forming the very first atoms of hydrogen. In that single, quiet moment, the universe suddenly became transparent. Light was finally free to travel through the darkness, and that ancient light has been traveling through the endless vacuum of space for over 13 billion years, just to reach our scientific instruments today. When we quietly contemplate this ancient epic history, the concept of a creator takes on a completely new and transformative meaning. If God is not an elderly architect with human features sculpting planets out of cosmic clay, what is God? Perhaps the divine is not a noun, but a verb. Perhaps it is not a distinct entity, but an ongoing process. It is the spontaneous, continuous unfolding of complexity from simplicity. It is the mysterious, beautiful tendency of the universe to organically organize itself, to move from a state of chaotic, formless energy into a breathtaking reality, filled with swirling spiral galaxies, burning stars, orbiting planets, and eventually conscious minds capable of asking these very questions. The hidden truth is that the universe did not necessarily need to be built by an external architect, because the universe itself is fundamentally, inherently creative. The laws of physics are not just restrictive rules. They are the fertile ground from which infinite possibilities grow. Consider the elegant, quiet simplicity of a snowflake forming in the high, freezing atmosphere of Earth. No one is manually assembling those trillions of water molecules into perfect, six-sided crystalline structures. The structure emerges naturally, inevitably, from the basic physical properties of oxygen and hydrogen atoms interacting with temperature and pressure. The universe is completely filled with this self-organizing magic. It is a cosmos that builds itself, an eternal, unfolding miracle that requires no outside intervention to be breathtakingly beautiful. This realization should never leave us feeling cold, small, or abandoned. On the contrary, it should fill us with a profound, quiet sense of ultimate belonging. The great religious and philosophical traditions of the world have always spoken of a deep, ineffable connection between the individual soul and the infinite divine. They have used different cultural words and different historical metaphors, calling it the Tao, the Brahman, the Holy Spirit, or the boundless light. But when we carefully strip away the cultural dogmas and look at the pure core of these spiritual insights through the rigorous lens of modern science, we find a striking, harmonious truth. The ancient mystics and the modern physicists are pointing toward the exact same majestic reality. We are not strangers in a strange land. We are not lonely foreigners wandering through a cold, indifferent universe. We are the cosmos itself, beautifully organized into a complex biological form that is capable of feeling wonder. We are the ancient stardust that has somehow learned to love, to dream, and to seek the truth. When you look at a stunning photograph of a distant nebula captured by the Hubble Space Telescope, you are not looking at a separate object far away. You are looking at your own deep cosmic history. You are looking at the vast glowing nurseries where the heavy elements that make up your bones and your blood were forged in the spectacular fires of stellar birth. As we continue this meditative exploration, let the vastness of this scientific reality wash over you like a gentle, calming wave. Release the heavy need for a human-like figure in the clouds to provide comfort, and instead find your deep inner peace in the flawless, mathematical elegance of the cosmos. Feel the steady, rhythmic beating of your heart, and know that it is powered by the exact same fundamental energies that drive the expansion of the universe. Breathe in the cool, quiet air, and realize that every atom of oxygen entering your lungs has a history that stretches back billions of years across the dark void. You are an ancient, infinite being, temporarily experiencing a brief, beautiful life as a human on a fragile blue planet. The great mystery of existence does not need to be solved completely tonight. It only needs to be witnessed and deeply appreciated. The universe is a vast, quiet sanctuary, and you are always welcome within its endless, starry halls. In the chapters ahead, we will journey even further, exploring the invisible dark matter that silently holds the galaxies together and the unseen forces that are mysteriously accelerating the expansion of space itself. But for now, just allow yourself to rest completely in the perfect stillness of this moment. Let the silence of the cosmos fill your mind, knowing that you are deeply, inextricably connected to everything that has ever been and everything that ever will be. Embrace the mystery, embrace the journey, and allow the gentle truth of your cosmic origin to guide you into a state of profound, peaceful contemplation. Have you ever walked outside on a perfectly clear night and felt completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of stars scattered across the dark canopy of the sky? When we look up, our eyes naturally gravitate toward the light. We are captivated by the glowing embers of distant suns, the luminous, spiraling arms of ancient galaxies, and the radiant dust clouds where new worlds are quietly being born. For most of human history, we naturally assumed that what we could see was all there was. We believed that the light held the entire story of the cosmos, that the visible matter, the rocks, the oceans, the burning stars, and our own biological bodies constituted the entirety of reality. But what if I told you that everything you have ever seen, everything you have ever touched, everything that emits or reflects even the faintest glimmer of light, makes up only a tiny, almost insignificant fraction of what actually exists? What if the true majesty of the universe, and perhaps the most profound reflection of the divine, lies not in the brilliant light, but in the deep, enveloping darkness? We are about to journey into the unseen, into the silent and invisible architecture that holds the cosmos together, a hidden reality that challenges everything we thought we knew about our place in the infinite void. In the middle of the 20th century, astronomers began to notice something profoundly strange about the way galaxies move. When you look at a beautiful, spiraling galaxy, like our own Milky Way, you see a swirling disk of stars rotating around a bright, central core. According to the foundational laws of gravity that have been tested and proven for centuries, the stars near the dense, crowded center of the galaxy should orbit much faster than the solitary stars out on the sparse, lonely edges. But when an astronomer named Vera Rubin meticulously measured the rotation speeds of distant galaxies in the 1970s, she discovered an impossible paradox. The stars on the very outer edges of the galaxies were moving just as fast as the stars near the center. They were spinning at hundreds of thousands of miles per hour. At those staggering, incomprehensible speeds, there was simply not enough visible matter, not enough gravitational pull from the glowing stars and gas to hold the galaxy together. The galaxies should have completely torn themselves apart, flinging their stars out into the cold, empty abyss of intergalactic space. And yet, the galaxies do not tear themselves apart. They remain perfectly, beautifully intact, turning gracefully in the quiet dark. Why? Because the universe is hiding something massive. Physicists realize that the visible galaxies are entirely embedded within unimaginably vast spherical halos of an invisible substance that we now call dark matter. Dark matter is a profound scientific mystery. It does not emit light. It does not reflect light. It does not absorb light. It passes right through our bodies and our planet without making a single sound. We cannot see it, but we know with absolute mathematical certainty that it is there, because we can clearly see the profound effect its gravity has on the stars we can see. When cosmologists calculate the total mass of the universe, they find that normal, visible matter, every star, every planet, and every human being that has ever lived, makes up only about 5% of the cosmos. Dark matter accounts for roughly 27%. When we search for the hidden truth about God, we often look for a blinding light, a burning bush, or a radiant figure descending from the heavens. But the rigorous discoveries of modern astrophysics invite us to contemplate a very different kind of divine presence. What if the divine is more like dark matter? It is an invisible, silent foundation that does not announce itself with brilliant displays of light, but instead quietly and gently holds the entire universe together. It is the unseen architecture of reality, the hidden scaffolding that prevents the spinning galaxies from flying apart into chaos. For centuries, spiritual teachers have asked us to have faith in the unseen. Today, science tells us that trusting the unseen is simply an acknowledgement of reality. We trust in dark matter because we can see its gentle, guiding influence. We can feel the presence of the divine in the exact same way, by quietly observing the profound order, the beautiful structure, and the sustaining balance it brings to the chaotic spin of our fragile lives. But the mystery of the invisible universe does not end with dark matter. As we drift further into this quiet journey of cosmic discovery, we encounter a force even more baffling and infinitely more powerful. For decades, scientists believed that the gravitational pull of all the matter in the universe would eventually slow down the expansion that began with the Big Bang. They thought the cosmos was gently coasting, but in the late 1990s, teams of astronomers observing the distant explosions of dying stars discovered another shattering paradox. The expansion of the universe was not slowing down at all. It was speeding up. The distant galaxies were rushing away from us and from each other at an ever-increasing rate. Some mysterious, omnipresent force was actively pushing the fabric of space itself apart. Scientists named this invisible, anti-gravitational force dark energy. Imagine the sheer scale of this phenomenon. Between our Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy lies a vast gulf spanning over 2,500,000 light-years. To our eyes, this appears to be a freezing vacuum, but it is brimming with the quiet, potent presence of dark energy, stretching the very fabric of space-time, gently but firmly dictating the ultimate fate of the cosmos. It is a majestic, unstoppable process. Dark energy is the ultimate cosmic phantom. It is completely smooth, filling every single inch of empty space in the universe with exactly the same density. As the universe expands and creates more space, it also creates more dark energy, which in turn causes the universe to expand even faster. When we calculate the cosmic inventory today, we find that this mysterious dark energy makes up roughly 68% of the entire universe. Think about the profound magnitude of that number. 68% of reality is dark energy, 27% is dark matter, and a mere 5% is the visible stuff that makes up you, me, and everything we have ever known. We are a tiny, luminous minority, floating in a vast, silent ocean of invisible forces. The universe is engaged in a continuous, quiet struggle between the gentle, pulling embrace of dark matter trying to hold the cosmos together, and the relentless, pushing breath of dark energy driving it apart. This delicate, unseen balance is the hidden truth of our existence. It forces us to approach the concept of a creator with a deep, unprecedented sense of humility. If God is the totality of this system, then God is 95% invisible, operating in a realm of physics that our human minds are only just beginning to faintly grasp. We are not the main characters acting on a brightly lit stage. We are fleeting, fragile sparks of consciousness nested within a staggering, dark mystery. But this darkness is not something to fear. It is not an empty, threatening void. It is a nurturing, vibrant silence. The dark matter acts as the cosmic cradle, gently gathering the ancient hydrogen gas into the dense pockets where the first brilliant stars could ignite. Without the invisible embrace of dark matter, our galaxy would never have formed, our sun would never have burned, and the earth would never have coalesced from the primordial dust. We literally owe our very lives to the unseen. As you rest and let these immense concepts gently settle into your mind, allow yourself to feel a profound sense of peace. You do not need to understand every mathematical equation or solve the great mysteries of astrophysics tonight. You simply need to recognize that you are safely cradled in a universe that is far grander, far more complex, and far more beautiful than we could have ever imagined. The invisible forces of the cosmos are not distant or disconnected from you. They are present right here, right now, gently passing through the room where you rest. Let go of the need to see everything clearly. Embrace the gentle darkness, just as the universe embraces the dark matter and dark energy that shape its destiny. Feel the quiet rhythm of your breathing, mirroring the ancient, expanding breath of the cosmos itself. You are a luminous child of a mostly invisible universe, surrounded by unseen wonders and held together by the quiet grace of physical laws. Rest in the comforting knowledge that the hidden truth is not a secret kept from you, but a vast, silent invitation to keep wondering, keep seeking, and keep finding peace in the infinite depths of the unknown. Have you ever sat quietly by a window on a slow, lazy afternoon, watching the dust motes drift through a shaft of sunlight, and wondered about the true nature of time? We experience time in such a fleeting, intimately human way. We measure our lives in heartbeats, in passing seasons, in the brief span of years that carry us from childhood into the gentle embrace of old age. Our minds are meticulously designed by evolution to understand the immediate present, to anticipate the next sunrise, to plan for the coming winter. Because of this biological limitation, we naturally project our own rapid, finite experience of time onto the concept of eternity. When our ancestors imagined a divine creator, they often pictured a being who existed in a static, frozen state of perfection, a timeless realm entirely separate from the messy, continuous flow of the physical world. But what if the hidden truth about the divine is not found in a static, unchanging eternity, but rather in the slow, majestic, and unstoppable flow of cosmic evolution? What if the true face of God is not frozen outside of time, but is intimately woven into the very fabric of deep time itself? To truly appreciate this profound mystery, we must gently step outside our human calendars and embark on a quiet journey into the staggering depths of astronomical time. We must learn to read the ancient clocks of the cosmos. When we look up at the night sky, we are not seeing the universe as it is right now. We are looking back in time, witnessing a quiet, ghost-like projection of the past. Light is the fastest phenomenon in the universe, traveling at an astonishing 186,000 miles per second. But even at that incomprehensible speed, the distances between the stars are so vast that it takes time for their light to reach our eyes. When you gaze at the closest star system to our sun, you are seeing light that left its surface over 4 years ago, but that is merely our immediate cosmic neighborhood. Let us cast our vision deeper into the dark. Imagine the light from a truly distant giant, a galaxy located over 1 billion light-years away. That ancient light has been traveling continuously through the absolute void of space for more than 1 billion years, just to reach our scientific telescopes. Think about the profound implications of that journey. When those specific photons of light first began their long, quiet voyage across the endless dark, life on our own planet Earth consisted of little more than single-celled organisms floating in primordial oceans. Complex animals had not yet evolved, and the majestic dinosaurs would not appear for another several 100 million years. Every single major event in human history, from the rising of the first ancient civilizations to the invention of the telescope itself, happened while that ancient light was still silently crossing the freezing emptiness between the galaxies. This is the reality of deep time, a concept so immense that our brains struggle to truly grasp its meaning. It challenges our desire for a universe that revolves around our brief human story. To help anchor this abstract concept, let us consider a more tangible example of human exploration. In the year 1977, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration launched a small, fragile spacecraft named Voyager 1, which has since become the fastest human-made object ever to leave our solar system. Today, Voyager 1 is hurtling through the cold silence of interstellar space at a breathtaking velocity of approximately 38,000 miles per hour relative to our Sun. Even at that tremendous speed, a speed that seems impossibly fast to our earthbound senses, it would take Voyager 1 roughly 80,000 years just to reach the nearest star, Proxima Centauri, which sits only about 4 light-years away. If you wanted to cross the entire span of our own Milky Way galaxy traveling at Voyager 1 speed, it would take you a staggering 2 billion years. And yet, the Milky Way is just one average-sized island in an ocean that contains trillions of other galaxies. The universe operates on a temporal scale that reduces our entire recorded human history to the length of a single, brief sigh in the dark. To truly grasp the infinite patience of the cosmos, we must look not only into the deep past, but also into the unfathomable depths of the future. The most numerous stars in any galaxy are not the brilliant, fast-burning blue giants, but rather the small, quiet red dwarfs. These tiny stars burn their nuclear fuel so incredibly slowly that they can continue to shine for trillions of years. A red dwarf, born at the exact same time as our own sun, will still be gently glowing long after our sun has expanded into a red giant and faded away into a cold, white dwarf. In vast cosmic structures, there are untold numbers of these patient red dwarfs. For trillions of years into the future, long after larger stars have died, these tiny red stars will continue to burn, providing the only faint light in a darkening cosmic landscape. The smallest among them can burn for up to 10 trillion years, roughly 700 times the current age of our universe. This is the true scale of the divine journey. It is a slow, quiet fade into eternity, a gentle and persistent glowing in the dark that refuses to be rushed. When we begin to internalize the reality of this infinite time scale, our understanding of the divine must necessarily evolve. The hidden truth is that God is not a cosmic micromanager rapidly pulling strings to influence the daily outcomes of human events. The divine is the incredibly slow, patient, and completely unbroken process of unfolding reality. It is the steady, quiet rhythm that governs the birth, the long burning life, and the spectacular death of stars over billions of years. Think about the profound patience required to construct the very atoms that make up your body. The universe did not create the heavy elements like carbon, oxygen, and iron in a single, miraculous instant. It took millions of years for the first massive stars to burn their primordial fuel. It took the brilliant supernova explosions of those stars to forge heavier elements and scatter them into the vast void. It took billions of years for those scattered clouds of stardust to gently drift together under gravity, swirling and condensing until they formed our sun and our earth. The universe is a master of infinite patience. The divine process does not rush. It allows complexity to blossom organically over eons of time. This realization fundamentally shifts how we experience our own lives. We often feel rushed, anxious, and desperate to find immediate meaning in our brief existence. But when you look at the universe through the lens of deep time, you realize that your very existence is the triumphant culmination of a 14 billion year-long journey. You are the exquisite result of countless stars living and dying, of ancient galaxies colliding and merging in the silent dark, of cosmic dust slowly forming into worlds. The universe spent billions of years preparing the precise chemical and physical conditions necessary for your consciousness to emerge. You are not an accident, and you are not insignificant. You are a rare, beautiful expression of the cosmos that has finally achieved the ability to feel wonder. When you look up at the ancient starlight, you are the universe looking back at its own deep history. You are the universe seeking to understand its own magnificent mystery. As you lie quietly, let the comforting reality of this vast time scale wash over you. Release the heavy human burden of urgency. The cosmos is not in a hurry, and neither should you be. Feel the gentle, rhythmic beating of your heart, and know that each beat is a tiny, beautiful continuation of a rhythm that began with the dawn of time itself. You are intimately tethered to the infinite. Embrace the profound silence of the night, letting it quiet your racing thoughts. There is a deep, eternal peace to be found in acknowledging our smallness in the face of such overwhelming antiquity. It is a humble, respectful awe that does not diminish our worth, but rather elevates our spirit by connecting us to something truly magnificent. The hidden truth is that the divine is not a distant destination we must rush to reach at the end of our lives. The divine is the gentle, continuous, and awe-inspiring journey itself. In the chapters that follow, we will continue to explore the breathtaking fate of the cosmos and what happens when the stars finally begin to fade. But for this quiet moment, just rest. Let the ancient, invisible currents of deep time cradle you in their gentle embrace. Allow the vast, peaceful silence of the universe to completely fill your mind, knowing that you are a precious, conscious spark in an infinite, beautiful, and eternally unfolding masterpiece. Have you ever stood safely behind a thick pane of glass, watching a violent, churning tempest rage outside in the dark, and wondered why a universe supposedly crafted by a benevolent creator contained such immense, terrifying, destructive power? When we look at the chaotic forces of nature on our small world, the shattering earthquakes, the roaring hurricanes, the blinding strikes of lightning, we often feel a deep, primal fear. For millennia, human beings interpreted this overwhelming physical violence as the explicit wrath of a disappointed God. We believed that destruction was a moral judgment, a divine punishment handed down from the heavens to correct our earthly flaws. But what if this deeply ingrained human perspective is fundamentally flawed? What if the hidden truth about the divine is that destruction and creation are not opposing moral forces at all, but rather the exact same continuous, beautiful process viewed from different angles? To truly understand this profound mystery, we must leave the turbulent atmosphere of our fragile planet and embark on a quiet journey deep into the vast, silent cosmos. We must observe the greatest acts of violence in the entire universe, not with fear, but with a sense of gentle, respectful wonder. Let us travel together through the ancient dark, crossing a distance so immense that it beggars human imagination, to a region of space located over 1 billion light-years away, in the direction of the constellation Virgo. Here, sitting quietly in the freezing depths of intergalactic space, lies a cosmic monster known to astronomers as IC1101. This is not an ordinary galaxy like our own beautiful, spiraling Milky Way. Our home galaxy stretches roughly 100,000 light-years across from one edge to the other. IC1101, however, is estimated to be somewhere around 4 to 6 million light-years across. If you could somehow travel at the absolute speed of light, which is the fastest anything can move in our universe, it would still take you millions of years just to cross from one side of this single, gargantuan structure to the other. This ancient behemoth contains an estimated 100 trillion stars, roughly 250 times more stars than our entire home galaxy. But this magnificent giant did not simply manifest into existence in its current sprawling form. It grew to its staggering proportions through a relentless, chaotic process that scientists call galactic cannibalism. It became a giant through an act of cosmic violence that has been happening for billions of years. When we hear the word cannibalism, we naturally recoil, projecting our human morality onto the cold, mechanical laws of physics. But in the infinite theater of the universe, there is no malice. There is only gravity. IC1101 sits at the gravitational center of a massive collection of galaxies called the Abell 2029 cluster. Over the course of its incredibly long history, scientists estimate that this giant has undergone at least 76 major mergers, absorbing substantial galaxies into its massive body. When two galaxies begin to interact, the first thing that happens is a slow, graceful gravitational dance. Even when they are millions of light-years apart, they begin to feel each other's irresistible pull. Stars are drawn out into long, glowing streams called tidal tails, which can extend for hundreds of thousands of light-years into space, like ghostly ribbons, marking the violence of the interaction. As the galaxies finally collide, clouds of gas and dust are violently compressed by gravitational forces and monumental shock waves. This immense, crushing pressure triggers massive, spectacular bursts of star formation. New stars light up by the billions, burning hot and bright in the darkness. What looks like absolute destruction from a distance is, in reality, the most prolific and vital engine of creation in the entire universe. The universe builds things from the bottom up, starting small and growing large through countless merges over cosmic time. This process is called hierarchical structure formation, and it is one of the fundamental principles of modern cosmology. At the very heart of this ancient cannibalistic galaxy lies something even more incredible, a physical manifestation of gravity so extreme that it completely shatters our intuitive understanding of reality. Sitting quietly at the core of IC1101 is one of the largest known supermassive black holes in the entire universe. Scientists estimate that this single dark entity contains somewhere between 40 billion and 100 billion times the mass of our Sun. All of that incomprehensible mass is compressed into a region of space from which absolutely nothing, not even light itself, can ever escape. The boundary of this absolute darkness, known as the event horizon, is roughly 150 billion kilometers in radius. To put this staggering size into perspective, Our entire solar system, from the burning sun to the distant icy orbit of Neptune, is only about 9 billion kilometers across. The event horizon of this single black hole is roughly 16 times larger than our entire cosmic neighborhood. The physics near this monstrous object are bizarre and counterintuitive. Time itself would pass differently, and anything falling towards the singularity would be stretched into long, thin strands through a terrifying process physicists have nicknamed spaghettification. When we confront something as terrifyingly powerful and seemingly destructive as a supermassive black hole, it forces us to completely reevaluate our hidden truth about God. If the divine is not a human-like figure judging our actions from afar, but rather the fundamental, unbroken laws of physics that govern the cosmos, then we must accept that the divine encompasses both the gentle warmth of a spring morning and the absolute, crushing darkness of a singularity. God is the entire, perfect system. The black hole is not a mistake, nor is it an evil force seeking to destroy the light. It is an essential, necessary component of galactic evolution. Scientists now believe that supermassive black holes play a crucial role in regulating galaxy growth and evolution. When gas flows toward a galaxy's center, the black hole can release enough energy to heat that gas and push it outward, preventing it from forming too many stars too quickly. It acts as a majestic cosmic thermostat that helps determine the final size, shape, and properties of the entire galaxy. The giant galaxy and its giant black hole have reached a kind of beautiful equilibrium, each one having deeply shaped the other over billions of years of shared, violent evolution. Even this magnificent violence eventually gives way to a profound, quiet peace. Despite containing 100 trillion stars, IC 1101 is actually a dying galaxy. Over billions of years of cannibalism, it has used up or expelled most of its available gas, the essential fuel for star formation. What remains is a quiet giant slowly fading into the cosmic night. Eventually, as the expansion of the universe accelerates due to dark energy, there will simply be no more galaxies left for it to consume. It will become isolated, a lonely giant floating in an ever-emptying universe, watching as one by one the other galaxies fade from view. This is not a tragic ending, but a gentle return to stillness. The universe is not a battleground between good and evil, between a loving creator and a destructive adversary. It is a single, unified, and perfectly balanced expression of physical laws. The collisions of galaxies and the crushing gravity of black holes are just as divine, just as sacred, and just as necessary as the delicate blooming of a flower. They are the mechanisms of transformation. Without the chaotic gravitational dances of galactic mergers, the intricate, sprawling structures of the universe could never have been built. The destruction of the old is the uncompromising prerequisite for the creation of the new. The divine process is a wheel of infinite recycling, a beautiful, eternal flow of matter and energy changing forms in the cold silence of the dark. As you lie there, safe and warm, allow this immense cosmic perspective to gently dissolve your earthly fears. When we stop demanding that the universe conform to our fragile human narratives, we are finally free to experience the true, staggering majesty of what actually exists. Feel the quiet rhythm of your own breathing, and recognize that the energy animating your physical body is the exact same energy that fuels the swirling accretion disks of distant black holes and the spectacular collisions of ancient galaxies. You are not separate from the terrifying and beautiful forces of the cosmos. You are a conscious, living manifestation of them. The universe is looking at itself, trying to understand what it is and how it came to be. Let the profound silence of the night sky remind you that all things are caught up in this gentle, unstoppable flow of transformation. The mystery of existence does not need to be feared, and the dark spaces of the universe do not need to be filled with human-shaped monsters or wrathful deities. They are filled with the quiet, flawless elegance of physical laws. Rest now in the comforting, unwavering embrace of this hidden truth. Allow the vast, peaceful reality of the infinite cosmos to quiet your mind, knowing that every ending is simply a new beginning in disguise, and that you are an eternal, essential part of this beautiful, continuing journey. Have you ever held a perfectly smooth stone in the palm of your hand, tracing its ancient rounded edges with your thumb, and wondered about the immense, unbroken chain of events that led to its creation? We often navigate our daily lives taking the physical world entirely for granted. We accept the solid ground beneath our feet, the gentle warmth of the sun on our faces, and the invisible air filling our lungs as if they were simple, guaranteed facts of existence. We rarely pause to consider the intricate hidden mechanisms that make our reality possible at all. But what if the hidden truth about the divine is precisely the opposite of a rigid, expected guarantee? What if the true face of God is not an inevitable, heavy certainty, but rather a breathtaking, almost impossible fragility? When we look closely, through the rigorous and unforgiving lens of modern astrophysics, at the fundamental laws of physics that strictly govern our reality, we do not find a universe that absolutely had to exist this way. We do not find a cosmos bound by absolute, unyielding necessity. Instead, we discover an ancient, quiet mystery that physicists and cosmologists call the fine-tuning of the cosmos. It is a profound enigma that gently challenges everything we think we know about chance, purpose, and the delicate, miraculous balance required for consciousness to eventually awaken in the dark. Let us take a slow, quiet journey deep into the mathematical heart of reality. Imagine the entire universe not as a chaotic, random explosion of gas and dust, but as a vast, magnificent instrument, much like an unfathomably large grand piano stretching across the infinite void of space. This cosmic instrument possesses a very specific series of fundamental dials, or strings, that strictly dictate exactly how physical reality operates at every conceivable level. Scientists call these the fundamental constants of nature. They include the exact, unchanging strength of gravity, the precise electrical charge of a single microscopic electron, the absolute mass of a proton, and the exact binding power of the strong nuclear force that holds atoms together in the freezing dark. For decades, brilliant cosmologists and quantum physicists have run incredibly complex mathematical simulations on supercomputers to see exactly what would happen if they gently reached out and turned just one of those cosmic dials, even a tiny microscopic fraction of a percent. The results of these rigorous mathematical experiments are absolutely staggering, and they have the power to completely transform our traditional understanding of the divine. If the ancient silent force of gravity had been even slightly stronger in the immediate moments just after the Big Bang, the entire universe would have violently collapsed back in on itself long before the very first stars could ever ignite. The cosmos would have been a brief, tragic, and failed experiment, a momentary flash of unbearable heat, ending in a catastrophic, crushing singularity. If, on the other hand, gravity had been just a tiny fraction of a percent weaker, the rapidly expanding clouds of primordial hydrogen and helium gas would have rushed apart, far too quickly. They would never have been able to gently condense into the glowing, dense nurseries that give birth to stars and swirling galaxies. The universe would have remained a cold, empty, and eternally dark void, expanding forever into nothingness without ever producing a single comforting point of light. The balance required for our universe to exist is not a matter of a forgiving few percent. In some specific cases, the physical balance requires a mathematical precision of 1 part in 10 to the power of 120. To try and put that completely incomprehensible number into human perspective, it is a level of precision far greater than attempting to hit a single, specific microscopic atom located on the absolute farthest edge of the observable universe with a tiny dart thrown blindly from the surface of the earth. But the profound mystery of this gentle precision goes even deeper into the microscopic realm. Consider the quiet, majestic process of stellar fusion, the ancient nuclear furnaces that have been burning in the dark for billions of years. In the 1950s, a brilliant astronomer named Fred Hoyle realized that the creation of carbon, the essential foundational element required for all known biological life, including the very cells that make up your own beating heart and breathing lungs, requires an incredibly specific, almost miraculous alignment of nuclear energy levels. Carbon is only forged when 3 separate helium nuclei collide simultaneously inside the dying, crushing heart of an aging star. For this exact, incredibly rare collision to successfully produce carbon, the resulting carbon nucleus must possess a very specific, resonant energy level. When Hoyle calculated exactly what that energy level must be, he predicted a specific state of the carbon atom that absolutely no one had ever observed in nature. Shortly after his bold prediction, scientists rigorously tested it in a laboratory and were astounded to find that this exact, precise energy level exists exactly where Hoyle said it mathematically had to be. Hoyle, who was a staunch, vocal atheist for most of his life, later wrote that looking at the flawless mathematics of the universe was like discovering that a super intellect had purposefully monkeyed with physics. The numbers, the perfect alignments, the silent, flawless precision. It all points directly to a cosmos that is exquisitely, breathtakingly balanced on the absolute edge of a razor. How do we interpret this staggering, hidden truth? For some, this perfect, undeniable fine-tuning is absolute, irrefutable proof of a conscious, deliberate creator, a grand, personal architect who carefully and lovingly set the dials of the universe specifically so that humanity could eventually emerge from the dust. But what if we approach this ancient mystery without our traditional, deeply ingrained human desire to always be the center of the story? What if the true nature of the divine is not the architect manually turning the dials, but the elegant mathematical harmony of the dials themselves? When we gently let go of the need for an anthropomorphic God, we are left with a universe that is a singular, magnificent symphony of physical laws. The divine is the resonance itself. It is the perfect quiet balance that allows complexity to organically bloom in the vast, ancient silence of space. We do not necessarily need a distant, human-like king to mandate our existence. The very laws of physics are inherently, fundamentally hospitable to the awakening of consciousness. The universe is practically begging for life to exist, with the recipe written perfectly into the very mathematical code of reality. Modern physics offers another breathtaking, mind-expanding perspective on this mystery. The scientific concept of the multiverse, The great physicist Stephen Hawking, in the final brilliant years of his life, worked extensively on complex mathematical theories suggesting that our beautiful universe is not the only one in existence. He imagined a vast boiling ocean of cosmic inflation, an eternal process where individual universes are constantly bubbling into existence like quiet, expanding spheres in an infinite, dark sea. In this majestic, mind-bending cosmic landscape, there might be trillions upon trillions of other universes, each one born with a completely different set of physical laws, entirely different strengths of gravity, and different fundamental constants. The vast majority of these other universes would be sterile, dark, and empty, completely incapable of supporting the delicate balance required for stars, planets, or life. But in an absolutely infinite ocean of mathematical possibilities, eventually, inevitably, a universe with the exact perfect right conditions would quietly bloom. We find ourselves living in this perfectly balanced universe, not necessarily because a human-like creator specifically chose us out of all of the possibilities, but simply because this is the only kind of universe where conscious, thinking beings can possibly emerge to ask the question in the first place. The hidden truth of the divine expands from the borders of a single universe to an infinite, eternal garden of cosmic creation, a multiverse of endless, beautiful experimentation. As you lie quietly, safely wrapped in the comforting darkness of your room, let the immense, beautiful weight of this fine-tuned reality settle gently over you. You are not a random, meaningless accident tossed into a chaotic, indifferent void. You are the exquisite, highly improbable result of an unimaginably precise physical balance that has been meticulously maintained for almost 14 billion years. The strong nuclear force, the electromagnetic force, the silent, omnipresent pull of gravity, they are all perfectly, flawlessly aligned at this exact moment just to hold the billions of atoms of your physical body together. Every single breath you draw into your lungs is a quiet, continuous celebration of this staggering cosmic precision. The universe is a vast, ancient, and perfectly tuned instrument, and your consciousness is the beautiful, fragile music it has finally learned to play in the dark. Feel the profound, deep peace that comes from knowing you absolutely belong here, that the very foundational laws of space and time are fundamentally woven together to support your existence. You do not need to fight for your place in the cosmos. Your place was meticulously prepared billions of years ago in the fiery, burning hearts of ancient stars and the precise, flawless mathematics of the Big Bang. Let the quiet silence of the night sky fill you with a deep, respectful wonder. The profound mystery of the fine-tuned universe does not need to be solved or completely understood tonight. It only needs to be felt, experienced, and gently embraced. In our next chapter, we will venture out to the absolute edge of the observable universe to see what happens when the ancient light finally runs out. But for now, simply rest in the profound, gentle knowledge that you are a true miracle of physical law, safely held in the quiet, infinite embrace of a perfectly balanced cosmos. Have you ever stood on the quiet edge of an ocean, watching a distant ship slowly slip beneath the curve of the horizon, and felt a sudden, gentle pang of melancholy as it completely vanished from your sight? There is a profound, deeply human emotional response to the act of watching something fade away, a quiet acknowledgement of the fleeting, transient nature of our shared existence. We naturally crave permanence. We seek out solid ground to anchor our fragile lives against the relentless flow of time. For thousands of years, our ancestors looked up at the night sky and found that comforting permanence in the seemingly fixed, eternal canopy of the stars. They imagined a divine creator who sat outside of time, maintaining a perfectly static, unchanging heaven. But what if the hidden truth about the divine is not found in eternal permanence, but rather in the breathtaking, majestic beauty of an ultimate, absolute ending? What if the true face of God is perfectly reflected in the slow, graceful fading of the light, the quiet settling of the cosmos into an eternal, peaceful slumber? To deeply understand this staggering mystery, we must gently project our minds far beyond our current era of burning stars and swirling galaxies, and embark on a quiet journey into the unimaginable depths of the far future. We must confront the ultimate destiny of the universe itself. In the late 1990s, two independent teams of brilliant astronomers made a shocking discovery that forever changed our understanding of reality. They were meticulously measuring the expansion rate of the universe by observing the brilliant flashes of distant, dying stars. The universe was not gently slowing down under the collective gravitational pull of all its matter, as everyone had naturally assumed. Instead, the expansion was actually speeding up. The distant galaxies were rushing away from us and from each other at an ever-increasing, accelerating rate, driven by a mysterious, invisible force we now call dark energy. As the fabric of space itself continues to stretch faster and faster, it carries those distant galaxies along with it. There is a fundamental speed limit to the universe, the speed of light, which travels at an astonishing 186,000 miles per second. But there is absolutely no physical limit to how fast the actual fabric of empty space can expand. Eventually, trillions of years from now, the expansion of space will become so incredibly rapid that the distant galaxies will recede from us faster than their light can possibly travel back to our scientific instruments. When that terrifying and beautiful threshold is crossed, those galaxies will permanently vanish behind an impenetrable veil known as the cosmic horizon. From the perspective of any consciousness that might still exist in our own local cosmic neighborhood, the night sky will begin to slowly, inexorably empty out. One by one, the distant galaxy clusters will quietly fade from view, their ancient light no longer able to reach across the rapidly expanding, freezing void. The observable universe, which currently contains approximately 2 trillion galaxies teeming with hundreds of billions of stars each, will shrink until nothing remains visible outside of our own local cluster. The rest of the infinite cosmos will have slipped entirely beyond the horizon, forever unreachable, completely unknowable, and absolutely silent. This is the ultimate isolation that awaits every single structure in the universe, cut off from everything else by the relentless, invisible breath of dark energy. But even this staggering cosmic isolation is not the final chapter in the grand, unfolding story of reality. What happens to a galaxy in a universe that is slowly, quietly winding down toward an ultimate state of thermodynamic equilibrium, a condition physicists refer to as the heat death? Over the next 100 trillion years, the stars in our galaxy, and in all the isolated galaxies across the dark void, will slowly burn through their finite supplies of nuclear fuel. The massive, brilliant blue stars burned out long ago in spectacular supernova explosions. The middle-sized yellow stars, much like our own comforting sun, will eventually puff up into massive red giants, gently shed their outer glowing layers as beautiful planetary nebulas, and slowly fade away as tiny, incredibly dense white dwarfs. Even the smallest, longest-lived stars, the patient red dwarfs that burn their hydrogen fuel so incredibly slowly that they can shine for trillions of years, will ultimately exhaust their energy and quietly go dark. Scientists estimate that all active star formation in the universe will effectively cease in about 100 trillion years. By that distant epoch, the primordial gas and dust required to forge new stellar bodies will have been completely used up or dispersed too thinly to collapse under gravity. No new stars will be born. The vibrant, luminous era of starlight, the era we are so incredibly privileged to witness right now, will finally be over. One by one, the trillions of stars will wink out. The galaxies will grow dimmer and dimmer over timescales that make the current 14 billion year age of the universe seem like the rapid blinking of an eye. Where once there was a blazing riot of stellar light, there will eventually be nothing left but the cold, dark, silent remnants of dead stars drifting endlessly through an ever-expanding, freezing void. But over even longer time scales, measured in years with so many zeros that writing them out would completely fill entire libraries, even these dead stellar remnants will decay. The white dwarfs will slowly lose their residual heat over 1,000,000 billion years, gradually cooling to near absolute zero until they become invisible black dwarfs. And what of the black holes, those terrifying supermassive monsters that currently sit at the heart of nearly every galaxy? The brilliant physicist Stephen Hawking mathematically proved that black holes are not completely black, due to bizarre, complex quantum mechanical effects occurring right at the absolute edge of their event horizons. They slowly leak particles and radiation over immense, incomprehensible time spans. Through this gentle, continuous process known as Hawking radiation, the black holes slowly evaporate. A black hole with the mass of our sun would take an astonishing one, followed by 67 zeros years, to completely evaporate. But the supermassive black holes will take far longer, perhaps a one followed by 100 zeros years. Eventually, in the deepest, most unfathomable depths of eternity, the last supermassive black hole will radiate away its final remaining drop of energy and completely disappear from the cosmos in a final, quiet burst of radiation. When that final event occurs, there will be absolutely nothing left but a completely uniform, freezing sea of diffuse photons. How do we reconcile this stark, ultimate ending with the hidden truth about the divine? If the universe is destined to slowly fade into a freezing, featureless void, where is the ultimate meaning? We must gently let go of our human obsession with permanence, our desperate need for a story that never ends. The divine is not the guarantee of eternal continuation. The divine is the sheer, beautiful, miraculous fact that any of this happened at all. The universe is a perfectly composed symphony, and like all music, its beauty is inextricably tied to its impermanence. A song that never ends is not a song, it is just noise. The meaning of the music is found in the precise arrangement of its notes, and ultimately in the profound, resonating silence that follows the very final chord. The hidden truth is that the transient, ephemeral nature of the universe is exactly what makes it so incredibly precious. We are living in a brief, radiant window of cosmic history, a tiny sliver of eternity where the temperature is exactly right, where the stars are burning brightly, and where complex biological chemistry can miraculously assemble itself into conscious minds. You are here right now in the glorious fleeting springtime of the cosmos. As you rest quietly in the stillness of your room, allow this profound cosmic perspective to wash away your earthly anxieties. Do not fear the distant, quiet ending of the universe, but rather let it fill you with an overwhelming, gentle sense of gratitude for the present. Feel the steady rhythm of your breathing and recognize it as a tiny, beautiful echo of the grand, expanding breath of the cosmos. You are a conscious spark of star stuff, incredibly privileged to be alive during the era of light. Let the vast, peaceful silence cradle you. You do not need to hold on to anything forever. The true, hidden nature of the divine is a gentle process of letting go. Embrace the mystery of your own fleeting existence, knowing that you're a vital, beautiful part of a magnificent story that is writing itself in the dark. Rest now, secure in the knowledge that the perfect, flawless order of physical laws guides everything, from the birth of the first stars to the quiet, eventual fading of the last black hole. Allow the infinite, gentle peace of the universe to completely fill your mind as we prepare to continue our journey. Have you ever sat quietly by a window while the rain gently taps against the glass and found yourself captivated by a single, solitary drop of water as it slowly travels down the pane? Have you ever looked deeply into that tiny, fragile sphere of moisture and wondered about the staggering, almost incomprehensible miracle of how dead ancient matter somehow learned to wake up, to move, to breathe, and to eventually ask questions about its own existence? For most of human history, the origin of life was considered the ultimate, unassailable domain of a divine creator. We believed an external, human-like architect had to reach down from the heavens and physically breathe a mystical spark into the lifeless clay of the earth. We saw life as a miraculous exception to the cold, mechanical rules of the universe, a sudden burst of magic in a dead room. But what if the hidden truth about the divine is far more deeply integrated into the fabric of reality than we ever dared to imagine? What if life is not a supernatural interruption of the cosmic order, but rather its most exquisite, inevitable expression? To truly explore this profound mystery, we must gently shift our gaze from the macrocosm of swirling galaxies to the delicate, ancient chemistry of our own origins, and then cast our vision outward to the billions of silent, spinning worlds that share our vast, majestic cosmic neighborhood. Let us take a slow, quiet journey back in time, not all the way to the fiery birth of the universe, but to a period approximately 4,500,000,000 years ago, when our own solar system was just a chaotic, swirling disk of dust and gas. The early Earth was not a peaceful sanctuary. It was a violent, molten hellscape, constantly bombarded by massive, city-sized asteroids and bathed in lethal radiation from a young, highly unstable sun. And yet, hidden within that terrifying violence were the precise, ancient chemical ingredients required for the greatest transformation in the history of our world. The basic elements that make up every single cell in your body were already there, forged billions of years earlier in the crushing hearts of dying stars and scattered across the void. But how did these dead, unconscious atoms organize themselves into the very first primitive forms of life? Science paints a picture of a universe that is inherently, beautifully restless. Through the patient, entirely natural processes of chemistry, simple molecules in the primordial oceans began to interact, driven by the geothermal heat of the planet and the electrical strikes of ancient lightning. Over millions of years, they formed increasingly complex chains, eventually stumbling upon a structure capable of self-replication. There was no single magical moment when non-life suddenly became life. It was a slow, gentle, and unbroken continuum of increasing complexity. The divine spark was not breathed into the clay from the outside. The spark was already written into the very mathematical laws of the chemistry itself. When we understand this, the concept of a creator completely transforms. God is not the potter molding the clay. God is the magnificent, innate potential of the clay to ultimately mold itself into a conscious, thinking being. This profound realization radically alters our relationship with the cosmos. It tells us that we are not aliens placed on this world by a distant architect. We grew out of this earth in the exact same way that an apple naturally grows from an apple tree. You are a seamless, unbroken continuation of the entire 14 billion year history of the universe. When you look at the stars, you're not looking at something separate from yourself. You are literally looking at your own ancient ancestors. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen filling your lungs. Every single atom was assembled in the freezing dark of space. The universe is not just a place where you happen to live. The universe is exactly what you are. You are the cosmos, beautifully and temporarily arranged into a biological form that is capable of experiencing the gentle emotion of wonder. But if the laws of physics and chemistry are perfectly uniform across the entire observable universe, and if life is a natural emergent property of those laws, then we are inevitably led to one of the most haunting and profound questions ever asked by human minds. Are we completely alone in the dark when we look up at the night sky? Are we the only ones looking back? For decades, astronomers have been searching for an answer to this profound mystery. In the year 2009, the Kepler Space Telescope was launched with an incredibly ambitious mission to stare quietly at a tiny patch of the Milky Way galaxy and look for the faint, periodic dimming of distant stars that would indicate the presence of orbiting planets. The results of the Kepler mission completely revolutionized our understanding of our place in the cosmos. Scientists discovered that our galaxy is absolutely teeming with planets. Current astronomical estimates suggest there are literally hundreds of billions of planets orbiting the stars within our own Milky Way galaxy alone. And out of those hundreds of billions of worlds, tens of billions are estimated to be rocky planets sitting exactly in the habitable zone of their host stars, the precise, gentle region where the temperature is just right for liquid water to exist on the surface. Think about the staggering, almost incomprehensible scale of those numbers. Tens of billions of potentially habitable worlds in our galaxy alone, and there are roughly 2 trillion other galaxies in the observable universe. The mathematical probability that the Earth is the only place where the ancient chemistry of the universe woke up and learned to think is infinitesimally small. The cosmos provides an unimaginably vast canvas for the gentle processes of life to take root. And yet, when we turn our giant radio telescopes toward the stars and listen closely to the cosmic static, hoping to catch a faint, distant whisper from an alien civilization, we hear nothing. We are met with an absolute, profound, and deafening silence. This eerie contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial life and the complete lack of evidence for it is known to scientists as the Fermi paradox. It is a mystery that deeply challenges our understanding of the universe and our own ultimate destiny. Why is the dark so quiet? Are the vast distances between the stars simply too great for civilizations to ever communicate? Does intelligent life inevitably destroy itself shortly after discovering the terrifying power of technology? Or is the emergence of a conscious technological species just an incredibly, miraculously rare event, a delicate physical balance that almost never happens? When we search for the hidden truth about the divine in the face of this profound cosmic silence, we are presented with two equally breathtaking possibilities. On the one hand, perhaps the universe is secretly teeming with life. Perhaps there are millions of other civilizations scattered across the dark, each one looking up at their own alien skies, asking the same fundamental questions, and feeling the same gentle pull of wonder. If this is true, then the divine is a magnificent, infinite chorus of consciousness, an eternal blooming of biological awareness across trillions of worlds. We are simply one tiny, beautiful voice in a vast cosmic choir. On the other hand, perhaps we truly are alone. Perhaps, in all the vast, sprawling 14-billion-year history of the cosmos, the Earth is the only place where the delicate, improbable chain of events necessary for consciousness to emerge actually succeeded. If we are alone, then we are the sole, fragile consciousness of the entire universe. We are the only mechanism by which the cosmos can know itself, love itself, and understand its own magnificent origins. The divine is not something outside of us. It is entrusted entirely to us. The heavy, beautiful responsibility of preserving the light of consciousness falls squarely on our shoulders. As you lie quietly in the comforting darkness, allow this cosmic perspective to gently settle into your mind. You are not a trivial accident, living an insignificant life on a tiny rock. You are the highest, most complex expression of a 14-billion-year-long physical process. You are the ancient stardust that has somehow learned to breathe, to think, and to feel. When you feel deep compassion, or simply sit quietly to marvel at the beauty of a passing cloud, you are performing a sacred cosmic act. You are the universe experiencing its own profound, heartbreaking beauty. Let go of the need for absolute certainty about what lies hidden in the deep, silent spaces between the stars. The mystery itself is the source of the wonder. Feel the steady, comforting rhythm of your pulse and know that it is a direct, unbroken continuation of the very first beating heart that ever emerged from the ancient, primordial oceans of our world. Rest now, secure in the knowledge that you are an infinite, essential part of this beautiful, unfolding mystery. Allow the vast, peaceful silence of the cosmos to completely fill your mind. We will soon continue our journey into the final, deepest questions of existence, exploring how our human consciousness shapes the very reality we perceive. But for now, simply embrace the profound peace of knowing exactly who and what you truly are. Have you ever closed your eyes in a perfectly quiet room, shutting out the relentless input of the surrounding environment, and wondered where the universe actually goes when you are no longer actively looking at it? We spend our entire lives walking through a world that feels incredibly solid, undeniably vibrant, and permanently external. We see the brilliant, piercing blue of a clear morning sky. We hear the melodic, rhythmic singing of a bird hidden deep within the branches of a sprawling oak tree, and we feel the rough, ancient texture of tree bark pressing against our sensitive fingertips. We naturally, instinctively assume that this vivid, bustling reality exists exactly as we experience it, completely independent of our presence. We believe with absolute certainty that the universe is a giant, brightly lit stage, and we are simply the temporary actors moving briefly across its grand surface. But what if the hidden truth about the divine is far more intimately connected to the very act of your own perception? What if the true, staggering miracle of existence is not just the ancient, silent universe stretching out infinitely out there, but the breathtaking, deeply mysterious universe occurring right now, at this exact moment, inside your own mind? To truly grasp this immense, paradigm-shifting concept, we must embark on a quiet, deeply inward journey. We must leave the swirling, majestic galaxies and the vast, freezing voids of intergalactic space for a moment, and explore the most complex, highly concentrated, and beautiful structure that the cosmos has ever produced over its entire 14-billion-year history. We must explore the fragile, biological miracle of human consciousness. Let us gently and courageously strip away the comforting, everyday illusions of our daily experience and look directly at the rigorous, unyielding reality described by modern physics. Out there, in the infinite expanse of the cosmos, there is absolutely no such thing as color. There is no sound, there is no warmth, and there is no cold. The universe, in its raw, fundamental physical state, is a silent, colorless, and completely odorless ocean of invisible electromagnetic waves, fluctuating energy fields, and drifting particles of ancient matter, the brilliant, fiery red of a dying sun sinking below the horizon, the soothing, rhythmic sound of massive ocean waves crashing against a rocky shore, the sweet, intoxicating fragrance of blooming flowers in the spring. None of these things actually exist in the external void. They are entirely manufactured, brilliantly constructed realities, forged in the absolute, pitch-black darkness of your own skull. When you look up at the night sky and see the faint, glowing light of a solitary star located millions of light years away, what is actually happening is a profound, almost unbelievable, physical transaction. Ancient photons of light, which have been traveling continuously through the freezing vacuum of space for millions of years at a staggering speed of 186,000 miles per second, finally reach the absolute end of their epic, lonely journey. They pass flawlessly through the clear, curved lens of your eye and violently strike the delicate, highly sensitive retina at the back. In that microscopic, unmeasurable fraction of a second, the ancient light is completely destroyed, instantly converted into a tiny, silent electrical impulse. This microscopic electrical signal then rapidly travels along your optic nerve, plunging deep into the dark, incredibly dense forest of your biological brain. Inside your head, shielded by bone, you carry an organic, living universe containing roughly 86 billion neurons, a staggering number that is astonishingly similar to the estimated number of stars floating in our own Milky Way galaxy. These billions of neurons are intricately connected by hundreds of trillions of delicate, microscopic synapses, constantly firing and communicating with each other in a silent, continuous electrical storm that never ceases as long as you are alive. Your brain takes that tiny, singular electrical impulse from the destroyed photon, combines it seamlessly with billions of other incoming signals, and miraculously translates it into the conscious, emotional experience of seeing a beautiful star. You are not passively observing the universe through a clear window. You are actively, continuously creating the universe you experience in real time. The cosmos provides the raw, invisible, and silent data, but your consciousness is the master artist that paints it with vibrant, breathtaking colors, fills it with resonant, deeply moving sounds, and breathes emotional, spiritual meaning into the cold, mechanical laws of physics. When we deeply understand this staggering biological reality, our traditional human-centric concept of a creator must undergo a radical, beautiful transformation. The divine is not simply the external, distant architect who coldly built the silent, invisible stage. The divine is the very act of warm, glowing awareness itself. This profound, intimate connection between the biological observer and the vast physical universe becomes even more deeply mysterious when we look at the strange, counterintuitive laws of quantum mechanics. For the first few centuries of modern, rigorous science, physicists firmly believed that the universe operated precisely like a giant, perfectly predictable clockwork machine. They assumed that microscopic particles had definite locations, absolute trajectories, and concrete physical properties, regardless of whether anyone was actually there to measure them. But in the early 20th century, brilliant, inquisitive scientists, peering into the microscopic realm, discovered a physical reality so bizarre, so completely alien to human intuition, that it completely shattered this comforting classical worldview. They discovered the famous mind-bending observer effect. At the deepest, most fundamental level of reality, tiny particles like electrons and photons simply do not exist in a single, definite state until they are actively, physically observed. Before they are carefully measured, they exist as a hazy, trembling wave of pure potential, literally occupying many different possible locations and states simultaneously in a haunting phenomenon known to physicists as quantum superposition. It is only when a conscious observer or a complex measuring device interacts with this fragile wave of potential that the mathematical wave suddenly and irreversibly collapses, forcing the tiny particle to choose one specific, definite reality. The very act of looking fundamentally and permanently changes the physical nature of the universe. Think deeply about the staggering, almost unimaginable implications of this quantum mystery. The universe, in its raw, completely unobserved state, is a vast, shimmering ocean of infinite possibilities, an endless silent field of mathematical probabilities drifting endlessly in the dark. It is not fully, tangibly real until it is actively, consciously perceived. If this is rigorous scientific truth, then consciousness is clearly not a trivial accident or a passive, meaningless byproduct of blind biological evolution. Consciousness is an absolutely essential, fundamental, and irreducible component of physical reality itself. Without a mind to observe it, to listen to its echoes, to feel its gravitational pull, the universe remains trapped in a silent, undefined, and ghostly limbo of pure potential. We are the necessary, beautiful mechanism by which the cosmos makes itself real. The hidden truth about God, the grand cosmic secret, is that the divine is not entirely out there, separate, judging, and distant from you. The divine is the quiet, luminous, and miraculous spark of awareness looking out through your physical eyes right now. You are the precise focal point where the infinite, ancient, and sprawling history of the universe suddenly collapses into a single, beautiful, and highly tangible present moment. The Creator and the creation are not two entirely different, isolated things. They are intimately, inextricably locked in a continuous, beautiful, and eternal dance of perception and reality. This leads us to a fascinating concept that cosmologists and deep-thinking philosophers refer to as the strong anthropic principle. It suggests a beautiful symmetry, that the universe must inherently possess those exact, specific physical properties which allow life to develop within it at some stage in its long history, because if it did not possess those properties, there would be absolutely no one here to observe it, and therefore it would lack reality. The universe is exquisitely fine-tuned for life, not because a human-like king arbitrarily mandated it from a golden throne in the sky, but because a universe without conscious, wondering observers is a universe that essentially does not exist in any meaningful, experiential way. It is a grand, epic story with absolutely no reader, a stunning, complex song with no listener, a magnificent, vibrant painting hanging in an eternally dark, permanently sealed room. The cosmos requires you just as deeply and fundamentally as you require the cosmos. The ancient massive stars had to die in spectacular, violent supernova explosions so that your biological body could eventually be built from their scattered, cooling ashes. But your physical body had to be built so that the ancient, silent stars could finally be seen, named, and deeply appreciated. It is a perfect, flawless, unbroken circle of existence. The universe labored patiently for 14 billion years in absolute, freezing silence, just to produce a biological instrument complex, enough to look back at its own origins and feel a gentle, overwhelming, and peaceful sense of wonder. When you truly, deeply internalize this magnificent, scientifically grounded reality, the heavy, persistent, and often painful feeling of human insignificance completely washes away. We so often look up at the vast, sprawling galaxies and feel incredibly small, terrified by the sheer, crushing scale of the cosmic void and the overwhelming distances that separate the stars. We constantly compare our brief, fragile lives, which span perhaps 80 or 90 years, to the trillions of years of stellar evolution and cosmic expansion, and we feel utterly, hopelessly meaningless. But physical size and temporal duration are not the ultimate true measures of value or divine significance. A cold, dead rock drifting silently through the endless vacuum of space for 10 billion years is undeniably ancient and massively heavy, but it feels absolutely nothing. It knows absolutely nothing. It is entirely, permanently blind to its own existence and the universe around it. Your small, fragile, temporary biological body holds something infinitely more precious, far more powerful, and immensely more rare than the largest supermassive black hole in the cosmos. It holds the brilliant, delicate light of awareness. It holds the unique, staggering ability to comprehend the mathematical laws of physics, to feel the deep, resonant sorrow of a melancholy melody, to love, and to experience the quiet, peaceful awe of a starry night. You are the universe's most complex, beautiful, and undeniably significant achievement. As you rest safely and comfortably in the quiet sanctuary of your room, close your eyes for a long moment and allow this profound, transformative truth to gently, peacefully settle into your racing mind. Feel the vast, silent darkness behind your eyelids and recognize it not as an empty, lonely void, but as the infinite, waiting canvas of your own miraculous consciousness. Every single passing thought that drifts through your mind, every gentle, fading memory you recall from childhood, every quiet, persistent hope you hold for the future, they are all magnificent, complex chemical and electrical events occurring within an organic, living universe that is just as deep, just as ancient, and just as mysterious as the cosmos itself. You do not ever need to desperately search the distant, freezing skies for a sign of the divine presence. The breathtaking miracle you have been desperately looking for is the very consciousness you are currently using to look. Relax your heavy body, knowing with absolute certainty that you are exactly where you are supposed to be, doing exactly what the ancient universe beautifully designed you to do. You are here to witness. You are here to carefully experience. You are here to lovingly bring the silent, ancient dark into the warm, vibrant, and feeling light of reality. Let the gentle, infinite peace of this immense cosmic connection completely cradle you as we prepare to journey even deeper into the philosophical and spiritual heart of existence. We have explored the physics, the deep time, and the breathtaking awareness of the cosmos. But what happens when we finally confront the quiet, inevitable end of our own individual biological journeys? Allow the beautiful, silent, and endless mystery of your own mind to comfort you tonight, knowing beyond any doubt that you are an eternal, essential, and beloved part of this continuous, wondrous journey through the dark. Have you ever walked through a quiet, ancient forest in the late autumn, watching a single, fragile, golden leaf gently detach from a high branch and drift silently down to rest upon the damp, dark earth? In that fleeting, quiet moment, it is so incredibly natural for us to feel a deep, resonant pang of melancholy. We look at the fallen leaf, we look at the bare, sleeping trees, and we inevitably think about the absolute, inescapable reality of our own biological mortality. For thousands of years, human beings have lived in profound, paralyzing fear of the end. We have culturally constructed terrifying visions of death as an absolute, dark abyss, a final, harsh judgment handed down by a distant, authoritarian creator, or a cold, permanent separation from everything we have ever loved and known. But what if the hidden truth about the divine completely shatters this fearful narrative? What if the rigorous, fundamental laws of physics reveal that true death, in the sense of absolute annihilation, is actually a scientific impossibility? To deeply understand this incredibly comforting and staggering mystery, we must take a quiet, fearless journey beyond the temporary boundaries of our own physical skin. We must look at the human body not as a permanent, isolated fortress, but as a temporary, beautiful, and continuously flowing river of ancient cosmic energy. Let us begin with one of the most beautiful, foundational, and absolute laws in all of modern science, a physical principle known as the first law of thermodynamics. This ironclad law of the universe states that energy can never, under any circumstances, be created or completely destroyed. It can only ever change its form. Think deeply about the staggering, profound implications of that scientific truth for your own life and your own inevitable physical conclusion. The electrical energy that is currently firing across the billions of synapses in your living brain, the chemical energy that is gently pulsing through your veins and causing your heart to beat, the kinetic energy that allows your chest to softly rise and fall as you breathe in the cool night air. None of that majestic energy can ever be erased from the cosmos. It is physically, mathematically impossible for your essence to simply vanish into nothingness. When a human life reaches its quiet biological conclusion, the universe does not lose a single microscopic drop of energy. Instead, the temporary, highly organized biological pattern that you currently call your physical self simply begins a gentle, beautiful process of deep cosmic relaxation. The rigid, energetic boundaries that temporarily separated you from the vast, sprawling surrounding environment slowly begin to dissolve, and the ancient, borrowed energy that animated your physical form is quietly, lovingly released back into the infinite, circulating cycles of the earth. When we begin to deeply understand this continuous, elegant recycling of matter and energy, our traditional fear-based concept of God completely transforms. The divine is not a grim reaper waiting at the end of a dark, lonely tunnel. The divine is the magnificent, infinite, and eternally flowing cycle of transformation itself. Every single atom of carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and iron currently making up your physical body has already existed for roughly 14 billion years. Those precise microscopic particles were forged in the spectacular crushing and fiery deaths of ancient stars. The calcium that gives essential strength to your bones was fused in the blinding heat of a supernova explosion millions of light years away. The iron that intimately allows your blood to carry precious oxygen was forged in the dense, crushing heart of a dying giant star just before it violently collapsed under its own immense gravity. They drifted silently through the freezing, pitch-black vacuum of the cosmos for billions of years. They were gently pulled together by the silent, omnipresent hand of gravity to form the molten, chaotic crust of the early Earth, roughly 4,500,000,000 years ago. They have been integral parts of towering, ancient trees, parts of deep, rushing oceans, and parts of countless other living, breathing creatures that walked the surface of this small blue planet long before humanity ever arrived. Your physical body is not a completely new, original creation. It is a temporary, breathtakingly beautiful mosaic constructed entirely from recycled stardust. You do not truly own the atoms that make up your flesh and bone. You are simply borrowing them for a brief, wondrous moment in cosmic time. And when your personal biological journey finally comes to its quiet, natural end, you will simply return those ancient building blocks to the great circulating planetary reserve so that they can be beautifully used again to build new, unimaginable forms of life. This scientific reality completely dissolves the terrifying, deeply ingrained illusion of our own permanent isolation. We are heavily conditioned by our biological senses to believe that the absolute boundary of our existence stops exactly at the edge of our physical skin. But physics tells us a far more comforting, majestic, and deeply interconnected story. With every single breath you take, you are continuously exchanging millions of ancient atoms with the vast, swirling atmosphere of the planet. The molecules of oxygen that you are currently drawing into your lungs were perhaps breathed out by a magnificent, ancient fern growing in a dense, humid forest hundreds of millions of years ago, or by a massive, gentle dinosaur wandering across a long-lost continent. When you exhale, you release carbon dioxide that will eventually be absorbed by the leaves of a towering oak tree or the microscopic phytoplankton blooming on the surface of the vast ocean. You are in a constant, invisible, and deeply intimate physical dialogue with the entire biosphere. Your physical self is not a static, permanent noun. It is a dynamic, constantly flowing verb. You are a temporary, swirling eddy in a vast, ancient, and endlessly flowing river of cosmic matter. Therefore, the concept of death is not an abrupt, violent severing of your connection to the universe. It is exactly the opposite. It is the ultimate, profound, and beautiful reintegration. It is the gentle moment when the tiny, isolated drop of water finally returns to the vast, endless embrace of the infinite, ancient ocean. Let us extend our vision even further, gently projecting our minds millions and eventually billions of years into the deep, quiet future of our planet. Long after your biological body has gently returned its borrowed elements to the rich soil, long after the great human civilizations have risen and quietly fallen back into the dust, the atoms that once made up your physical form will continue their epic, restless journey. They will be actively taken up by the reaching roots of giant, sheltering trees. They will evaporate into the high, cold atmosphere to form towering, majestic storm clouds, and they will be carried by deep, sweeping ocean currents across the entire globe. But even the Earth itself is not permanent. Approximately 5 billion years from now, our steady, comforting sun will finally exhaust the available hydrogen fuel in its deep, crushing core. As it begins to die, it will dramatically swell into a massive, glowing red giant. Its outer, burning atmosphere will slowly and inexorably expand eventually engulfing the inner planets, including our own beautiful, fragile Earth. The immense, terrifying heat of the dying sun will completely vaporize the deep oceans, melt the ancient continents, and gently lift the atmosphere away into the dark. But even this staggering planetary destruction is not a true, final ending. It is simply another magnificent, necessary cosmic transformation. The intense, searing heat of the expanding red giant sun will gently and inevitably strip the ancient atoms of your former body away from the melting earth, carrying them upward on powerful, glowing stellar winds. The particles that once formed your beating heart, your thinking brain, and your seeing eyes will be cast out into the freezing, deep vacuum of the interstellar medium. You will literally, physically return to the stars. You will drift silently through the dark, vast and quiet cosmos for countless billions of years. Perhaps, in some impossibly distant future epoch, the silent, omnipresent pull of gravity will gather those exact same wandering atoms together once again. They might gently condense within a dark, cold molecular cloud, swirling inward to form a completely new, radiant star, or a new, rocky planet orbiting in the habitable zone, or perhaps even a completely new, unimaginable form of conscious life looking up at an unfamiliar starry sky. Your physical destiny is not the dark, suffocating confinement of a wooden box buried deep in the earth. Your ultimate, guaranteed physical destiny is to become the sprawling, glowing, and majestic fabric of the cosmos itself. When we truly begin to deeply understand and embrace this staggering, scientifically grounded reality, our fear of the end softly and inevitably begins to melt away. The hidden truth about God is that the divine did not create a universe where absolute, permanent loss is physically possible. The divine is the perfect, flawless, and unbroken system of deep conservation. Nothing of true, fundamental physical value is ever discarded. Everything is carefully, lovingly preserved and transformed. We suffer because we desperately try to hold on to the temporary, fleeting shapes of the drifting clouds, completely forgetting that the water itself is absolutely eternal. Your individual human ego, the small, anxious voice in your head that constantly worries about its own permanent survival, is simply a temporary, evolutionary biological tool designed to keep your physical body alive long enough to experience the profound, fleeting beauty of the material world. But that small, anxious voice is not the deepest, truest part of what you are. The deepest, truest part of you is the ancient, indestructible, and eternally flowing energy of the universe itself. You are the infinite, cleverly disguised for a brief, wondrous moment as a temporary human being capable of feeling profound awe and deep wonder. As you lie quietly, wrapped safely in the comforting, gentle darkness of your room, allow this immense, profoundly comforting cosmic perspective to wash completely over you, easing every tension in your muscles. The universe is not a cold, indifferent machine. It is a deeply nurturing, perfectly closed system of eternal recycling, where absolutely nothing is ever completely wasted and nobody is ever truly lost. Do not fight the natural, beautiful flow of time, and do not fear the inevitable, gentle transformations that patiently await you in the distant future. Feel the steady, comforting weight of your body resting softly against the mattress, and know with absolute, unshakable certainty that the earth is gently supporting you just as it supports the ancient, sleeping trees and the deep, rolling oceans. You are safely, permanently held by the flawless, mathematical laws of physics, completely protected by the absolute, unbreakable rules of thermodynamics. Let go of the heavy, exhausting burden of trying to be permanent in a universe that is completely defined by beautiful, continuous change. Embrace the profound, quiet relief that comes from fully surrendering to the ancient, flowing rhythms of the cosmos. Your existence is not a brief, tragic spark destined to be permanently extinguished in the dark. It is a permanent, beautiful, and indestructible thread woven intimately into the grand, expanding tapestry of reality. Rest now, secure in the comforting, gentle knowledge that you have always belonged to the infinite, and that you will always, eternally remain an essential part of the beautiful, unfolding mystery. Allow the vast, peaceful silence of the universe to completely fill your mind as we prepare to continue our quiet journey. In our next exploration, we will expand our awareness beyond our own individual physical forms to look at the majestic, invisible threads of gravity and unseen forces that intimately connect every single object in the cosmos, revealing how distance and separation are merely the greatest illusions of all. But for now, just let yourself drift peacefully into the welcoming dark, knowing with absolute certainty that you are eternal.